What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Jeremy. This is Fishing Lone Star, and today we're gonna do something a little different, and we're gonna give a gear breakdown of the ProTi. This is the new one released in, I guess, at the end of 2022, but we'll just say new for 2023, and then also the previous model of the ProTi. We're gonna compare the two. I'll give you kind of my initial thoughts, although you'll see there's no line on this one, on the new one, because I've not used it yet. So in terms of like an actual review of using it, that's to come, but I'm gonna break down the differences between these two because quite honestly, you can find this one on sale at a great price. And you may be wondering really what the difference is besides the cosmetic changes. So let's break it down and talk about it. Oh, it's not a three, monster of a fish.
Good fish right there.
All right, so if you have not seen it yet, Lews introduced the new ProTi at the end of 2022. It is this one right here. It has a really slick kind of a JDM style or profile to it. And so I'm gonna break down the differences. It has kind of those JDM handles. We're gonna break down some of the differences between this and the previous model, which is one of my favorite reels. And then kind of tell you what some of the similarities are and also the differences. And you're gonna find that there's some differences and there's also a lot of similarities. And so you're probably asking yourself, okay, well, is it worth the value? Is it worth paying $400 for this reel? I think the other one used to retail somewhere around $320 to $340. This one retails for $400. So we're gonna break down the two of them and compare them. So let's start with the obvious. Let's start with just the exterior looks, all right? And I'm gonna hold these side by side. These are on the exact same rod, by the way. It's a 7.3 heavy fast action rod by TFO, Temple Fork Outfitters. But the reel, all right, we got the ProTi, and you'll see just the differences right up front in the design. Let me show you kind of the multiple side angles so you can kind of see the differences this way. I'll show you the differences kind of this way. And then let me turn the rods the opposite direction and show you, if I don't hit all my other rods that are on the wall over there, the differences kind of this way. And then last, let me show you the front of them, and then I'll call out some of these differences. This one may be kind of tricky. Let's try to angle this. I don't know if I can do that one. But some of the differences, yeah, that's probably not turning out very well. Anyways, all right, so let's talk about a couple things that are new for this model. So first of all, the grips are new, right? These kind of thinner profile grips, kind of the JDM style. The line guide is actually new. So that's a new design on the line guide. You know what? Instead of me trying to do this with the rod on there, let me just take the rod off. It's gonna be way easier. Okay, the actual design itself is much newer. Now, it is kind of similar. I do have the BB1 Pro, right? Geez, see with these rods, I'm hitting everything. So you'll kind of see it's a kind of similar design to the BB1 Pro. However, tried to break my rod tip that time. However, this is a little more elongated in the front. Now, a lot of people have said that these do look like a Shimano or something like that. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. They're a little flatter through here. So yes, there's some similarities. They do somewhat look the same. I do like the front look of this. The side profile, I'm not really sure yet if I like this or not. You've got your kind of recessed brakes down here. I know some of the Daiwas have that, and also some of the Shimanos. Compared to the way the old one sits, the brakes are on the outside here. So kind of those comparisons. Not really sure yet how I'm going to like the brakes down here. You still have your hook kind of keeper. That's the same as the old one. The speed dial over on the side here is the same as the old one. This just basically, you just turn it. If it's monofilament fluorocarbon braid, you turn it with your fingernail or a coin to what pound test line you're using. So that's the same. Obviously the exterior front though is different. So the thumb bar is different. And then what's also different is the spool And there's also what's called the speed knot. So it'll be hard to show you, but there's a little place right in here on the spool where you simply tie a knot in the end of your line, right? Put it through your line guide, slip it through that little crevice, and just start reeling to spool your line. So the speed knot is gonna make it super easy to take line on and off and to re-spool your line here on your spool. So that's the speed knot. I believe those are all the exterior components. You still have your external port right here for grease and your gears, so that's super helpful. And then the other one, the release for the side plate was down here. This one's up here in the front, so those are kind of similar. I'll just pop it off really quickly to show you the brakes. The brakes and the bearings, I believe, are the exact same. Now, the new one says that there's 11 bearings. The old one says there is 10 plus 1. So I do believe they're somewhat the same. I also believe that all the internals are the same with this one and the old one. I believe that the brakes are the same. I believe that the spool is slightly different though. Okay, so this one, let me make sure I get these specs right because there's a 10 yards difference. All right, so the old one has 120 yards of holds, 120 yards of 12-pound test. The new one holds 110 yards of 12-pound test. All right, so this spool is gonna hold 10 yards less of the same line as that one if you're talking about 12-pound line. The new one does weigh 0.1 ounces less than the old one. The old one weighs 6.3 ounces. The new one weighs 6.2 ounces. They both have 20-pound drag, both the old one and the new one. So the drag's the same there. So they both have the carbon fiber handle, old one and new one. So aside from the spool being slightly different, less line on the new one, more line on the old one. This one's a tad bit lighter on the new one. The brakes are different. So aside from kind of a big overall haul to the cosmetic differences, most of these two reels are actually the same. But I will tell you this. I actually really like the new design compared to the old one. I wasn't just a huge fan of this pointed edge right here. I do like the rounded edge, but I actually like the one that's in the Custom Pro better, or the BB one that I just showed you. I like those better, or the Custom Light or the Custom. Let me grab one, I'll show you. So this is the Lews Custom. You'll see how it has this squared off front, and this new ProTi does as well, but the ProTi is more elongated and the squared off front than this one. So I wish they would have kind of somewhat made this portion right here a tad shorter. I'll show you from this way. You can see how much of it sticks past kind of this bottom lip right here. I wish I had just made those even and cut this maybe a tad here. But overall, like the feel in hand, right, as I palm this or hold it, feels really, really good. Let me put it back on the rod and I'll show you what it looks like on the rod. All right, so when it's on the rod, okay, here's what the size looks like. And then if I put my hand, which the way I hold my reel, I used to put one finger kind of above what I call the trigger right here. I used to do one one finger. I now have switched to two. So not that I'm really palming it, but you can see where kind of my hand sits on it. I'll turn my hand over this way so you can see that. It does fit really nice in your hand, okay? So I do really like the palmability, if that makes sense, of this particular reel. And for the guys that like to do 3 fingers above the quote unquote trigger, I mean, you've got, you're able to almost wrap your entire hand around the reel. So depending on how you hold it, this does feel really good in the hand. It is super light. The reason why I pair it with this TFO rod is the rod is about 4.5 ounces. So this entire thing is less than 11 ounces. So for me, as I'm throwing if I don't break this rod on the top of my garage, is I'm throwing swim baits, swim jigs, underspins, any type of moving baits, except for, like I say, single hook moving baits. I'm going to use something like this or the Hypermag because those are both extremely light. This is heavier than the Hypermag, just because the titanium frame, that's where the TI and ProTi comes from, but the titanium frame isn't quite as light as the magnesium frame in the Hypermag. That's where mag stands for, is magnesium. But I will tell you, this does look and feel very good in hand. All right, one last sidebar. What I am going to do is I'm going to take off these handles. Not necessarily because I don't like them. It's just I'm going to try these Gomexus color changing. They actually change to purple in the UV light. So I'm going to change those out with these. So if you want to see that, stay tuned to the channel. If you want to see a full review, once I get this spooled up and go fishing with it this weekend, stay tuned for that as well. I'll come back and tell you kind of my overall thoughts and feelings of this reel. But again, one more look of these two compared to each other. A couple different angles. Overall, I really like the new design. I like the new look. It is much sleeker, and Lews did a fantastic job with this. All right, guys, so maybe you've got the new one, maybe you've got the old one, maybe you've got the old one and you're considering the new one. Maybe you don't have either of them and you saw this one on sale, but was also wondering what the new one, the differences were. I don't really know, but drop me a comment below. Let me know kind of your thoughts on this video, your thoughts on both the old version and the new version of the ProTi. I can tell you they're both sweet reels. You can't go wrong with either of those, but I feel that way about most of the Lews reels that I have. If you got any questions about any other topics or Lews reels, drop me a comment, let me know. And if nobody told you today, God loves you, and so do I. Peace out.